it's Jeanne Parnell again, and it's Wednesday again, and I have my favorite person on. One of my favorite, especially, is Ruth Hunt, and she's so into this Black history and all of our heritage and all the wonderful things that we've done in life. And I just called her this morning because I said, you've got to come on and continue telling us all that we're about. Hi there, Ruth Hunt.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you? Good morning. How are you?
Whatever it is, like we've been on since this morning. But it's so wonderful. I want to thank you for this because Ruth said I said the day before, the day after, and here we are. And I'm so excited because last week I got so many calls from your people.
Did they enjoy that conversation with Rick Murphy? That
yes,
outstanding historian and genealogist.
I always have. I never can give the names of anybody, Ruth Hunt, but I was walking the streets on several different occasions, and I must say this. And, I don't know what our listenership is, but they all said, "Oh, Jeanne, I enjoyed those Black people talking about us." And I said, "Oh my God!" And what is his name again?
Rick Murphy.
Rick Murphy. They remembered Ruth Hunt, but they didn't remember Rick Murphy. And I want to tell them if I see them again, because I have a little fan club.
Yes, of course.
I mean, in Harlem. And they hang out on 135th Street, and they go to the same supermarket I go, the same drugstore I go, the same cleaners I go, the same bank I go. So if I see one, I'll see two. If I don't see none, I see three,
Yeah, and the beautiful thing, you're in such an enriched neighborhood that you have the Schomburg there, the library there.
It's
great.
Oh, Ruth, you know us. You know where we are.
Yeah, I know our churches. We have Abyssinian Baptist Church on 138th, and we have Mother Zion, AME Zion Church. And the most historical Black church in Harlem, who's been around longer than Abyssinian, actually. So, Paul Robeson's brother used to be the minister at that church. They have a very deep,
fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
I want your brain to know all that stuff because you know what I know, but I don't know how to voice it and verbalize it as you just have, because it is a wonderful place to be. And you know what happens, Ruth, and I don't want to get off the subject, but one of the wonderful things that happen with this neighborhood is that people, Harlem, Black neighborhoods just in general have a bad neighborhood. Oh, you live in Harlem. Oh my God. Whoa, how'd you stay up in there? And I said, are you kidding? And these are Black people who say this. And white people, they're scared to, except for those that are smart, are buying up here now, buying brownstones and stuff. But to get to the end of the story, it's just so wonderful to hear you say what you just said about the enrichment and the history and all the things. You're so knowledgeable.
Did you see on Henry Louis Gates, and maybe your audience can tune into that, but for the last couple of weeks, he had a special that followed Finding Your Roots. This is on PBS on Channel 13. The Great Southern Migration. I think I told you to tune in one night. And then they had part one, because they had the first part that came, like when people first came to the North after slavery.
Yeah.
And then after the Depression, it was another wave of the Great Southern Migration. And people flocked to, Chicago, to New York, Harlem, and then the second wave, they started going to California. It is so fascinating, the story of how our people, left the South after experiencing such harsh treatment in the South. And they came to the North, and it was interesting because some of the people were saying that he interviewed said, well, it was a silent discrimination in the North. But they had discrimination in the North. Don't let anybody fool you that we still had to go through. And we still go through it.
We're still going through it.
We still
Thank
going
you.
through it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so we look at our history, though, if we, and maybe it might be repeat again, but it was an excellent piece that Professor Henry Louis Gates did on the Great Southern Migration, and to see how a lot of people, I mean, we had people, I think Rick said how he was able to, acquire information, because in the northern states in Massachusetts, where he came from, there was a lot of documentation, and he could go back to the 1600s to trace his ancestry. Whereas Southerners, a lot of them burnt up all the records. They burnt up all of the records of the South, so they didn't trace who owned who and all of that. So
you are saying something so right, and I just want to throw in this amen to you. Is you asked me at one time to ask my relatives who were those different soldiers and people I saw in armed there, uniform. Do you know I have nobody knows?
Oh my goodness!
Yes, nobody. So and the people who knew are dead. Yes,
that's what happened.
I'm going to still keep asking. Yes.
And see whether or not behind in the back of the photograph if they wrote the name.
Okay.
But
then
we can still try to look it up, Jeannie. Now we're genealogists, and I'm inviting one of my colleagues, a brilliant member of the organization that I belong to. But this is the type of work that we do. So your relative that has that picture in their house, and maybe I don't know how long they had that photograph in their house, but whatever their last name is, we can start to try to trace it based on, the census record will say who lived in that household, say in the 1930s or the 1940s, because you remember seeing it on the wall.
I do, yes.
And so by
on
getting
the piano, it was a photo that was framed and put on the piano. You know how you put something out in the living room?
Yes, of course.
And everybody had a piano in the olden days.
Everybody had it. Whenever you went to a Southern household, I guess New York too, if you had the room for it, but in the Southern house, everybody had a piano.
Everybody had a piano.
The piano, and they
all could play it. They all could play it.
That's true.
It's unbelievable. When they start saying when music started, and they forget us, I say, oh, please, give me a break. All right, now get that together. Because
well, we know that you were a school teacher and dealt with the gifted, the young gifted youth of Harlem. Yeah, and I'm always bragging to people that you were Alicia Keys' teacher.
Yes.
And I have been out with you when parents of these children have said, "Oh, gee," not only parents of the children that just rave about you when they see you out, but we once went to The View, and Whoopi Goldberg realized that you were there and that your son had acted with her in a film.
The Long Walk Home.
Yes, and she had you come up. She jumped off the stage and came down to embrace you. So, you were my celebrity friend.
You're so sweet. You know what? And I'll tell you, you think that made your day. It made my day.
Oh, yeah. That was a special moment. It was a special moment.
You know what? That's what's wonderful about you. And I'm not just saying it's giving you a compliment because you gave me one. I just feel it's so unique and so different only because Black people are just being knocked on the head and knocked on the back and knocked on the door and said, wake up. You have a tremendous heritage. Enjoy it. And people are now investigating it. The likes of Ruth Hunt, like you and many other people that are that have joined organizations such as you have and are sitting down thinking about writing a book and putting stuff in black and white. To say,
beautiful.
This is what you are about.
Exactly.
And it's so wonderful, Ruth. And, I know when I was coming up, and I'm certainly older than you are, I would just be so pleased to hear someone give me an old-time story. And
Oh, yeah.
grandmas used to do it. Oh,
Yes.
you've been throwing stones and running away, old and lamb. And I can't say it without sounding like her. Her voice trembling and all.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just take this moment and say, thank you so much for picking up your profession, for doing what you've done. And you waited until you matured in age to do so. And it's so wonderful.
Well, that's true. I've been doing it for a long. I've been researching ever since I saw Alex Haley's Ruth, but I began to speak on it in my later years because I have the confidence about it. I've done a lot of research about it and very knowledgeable about it. But I wanted to introduce you to one of my colleagues from the Afro-American Historical and Genealogy Society, Stacey Bell, the president.
Oh, Stacey Bell. Hello, Stacey. Are you there?
I am here. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank Ruth. She's just so wonderful. She loves you people.
We love her.
And if we have a moment here at WHCR, I can get you somebody. I'll find you someone. Well, we have many spokespeople. So nice to meet you. And Ruth introduced her. What did she do?
So Stacey is the current president of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogy Society, and the acronyms are AAHGS. And she has been for 3 years now, Stacey, I believe. But she's been a member. She's been a member for almost 30. Well, you tell them, Stacey. She's been a member for many
tell
years.
Us, Stacey.
Yeah,
now.
Ruth is like me. She knows you forever, but when it comes time to tell you about it, I always forget. Now that I don't forget, I begin to act like I don't know you.
No worries. So I met Ruth when I joined AAHGS. I joined in 1993. I was a young working professional wife with 2 little boys, and I wanted to formally document my family's history. I came to genealogy as a kid, just like Ruth. After we saw Ruth, everyone wanted to trace their heritage. So I was this 10, 11-year-old girl. I went down to spend time with my grandparents in South Carolina, and I told
where you're from.
Yep, I told my grandma, I want to find the Kunta Kinte in our family. And she was like, girl, Kinte.
Oh, that's funny.
You can go up and down the road and ask Cousin Cora, ask Cousin B, ask
whoever. Yes. They all live together.
Exactly. And that's how I got started. And so when I joined AAHGS, I learned that, the records were few and far in between for Southerners like us. But so there, it can be found. It's just where we look how different.
What part of the South were you? South Carolina? But where?
Yeah, South Carolina, the Low Country, Gullah Geechee country.
Okay, because I'm from Bennettsville.
I know where Bennettsville is. I know exactly.
Okay.
Yes,
so I'm sorry. I'm so interested in what you're saying. I'm interrupting. I'm sorry.
No worries. So we know, like being from South Carolina, Ruth, your family in North Carolina and Virginia, we know Alabama, Mississippi, that people were enslaved in the southern states. But what people don't know is that people were enslaved right here in New York City.
No, I didn't know that myself. I knew that. I know we've never had too many rights, but I didn't know we were enslaved here.
Oh, most certainly. The New York port imported the highest number of Africans to be enslaved, second only to Charleston. Early on in the Dutch period of New York, there were people who were enslaved. And then, of course, the English took over. But New York was always a melting pot of various people, from West Africans to Europeans to Asians, you name it. They were all here. They were trading. And, of course, we are on the land of the Lenape people. We can't leave them out. This was their land, and it was usurped, for this criminal enterprise, might I say. It was importantly a corporate enterprise. The Dutch West India, the Dutch East India companies. These were companies that set out to make money on human bondage.
On my body, they made money.
On the body of our ancestors.
That's right.
And we need to go back and find them. Like the Akan symbol Sankofa. We need to go back and fetch it. We need to go back and find who they are. We need to breathe life into them
and give them credit for what they've done under the conditions they did it.
Yeah, exactly. What they endured to have us walk free.
That's right.
And not just us. I'm talking New York City was built on human bondage. We have a family that's been involved in our chapter of AAHGS. And again, that's a long name, the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society. And we are the Jean Sampson Scott Greater New York chapter. So we just call ourselves New York for short. My mentor when I joined was a man by the name of Gus Harris. We had a writers group and we were, writing the histories of our families. And he wrote an article in one of our national journals about his ancestor, Samuel Anderson, who was enslaved in Brooklyn. And then found an article in the Brooklyn Eagle that was
I remember that paper.
You remember that paper?
Yes, the Eagle. I remember that.
I don't remember the paper, but
I do.
Like looking it up, old microfilm and microfiche.
Yeah, it's old because I was in not in kindergarten, but I was in elementary school. Early, when they used to go around. They used to bring the Eagle around.
Oh wow!
Stacey, Jeanne grew up in Brooklyn and
Fort Greene Project.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I know. I was born in Harlem Hospital, but my father worked in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and so at that time there was integrating things, and we moved into the project. We were just so tickled because we were living in Harlem in like a one bedroom situation, and I was getting older. And fast forward, I'll never forget it. I'll let you take over after that, but I'll know when we went in to see our apartment, which was $40 a month.
Wow.
And so how old I am. And my mother looked over and she said, "Oh my God, Paul." Paul is my father. She said, "Jean's gonna have her own bedroom."
Oh wow.
I'll never forget that. Because it was like she had seen Jesus, seen God. She was so happy that I was gonna have my own bedroom.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's shut up because I'm just bringing up to date what you all are, what the era and the age that you're talking about. That we're still alive. We're still walking around.
Yeah, and we see the progress. My parents lived in Bed-Stuy when they came through the Great Southern Migration, and when they were in Bed-Stuy, when they opened up the Albany Project, it was such a marvelous thing to happen because they had at those days they had icebox.
Yes. Oh, wait a minute. They called them refrigerators. There'll be icebox. No iceman came to you. You had a refrigerator.
Wow. That's a whole history on its own, like the public housing and how, we were allowed to rent. You have to have a job, first of all.
You had to have a job.
You have to have a job, and mostly, your parents had to have a decent job.
A decent job. My father was in the Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you know who got him through there? My mother's father was a minister, and what happened is that he was allowed, or he was able to send them to a mini college, a college in South Carolina. And my mother had a college degree. And what happened is that she couldn't find work. So she was cleaning people's white people's kitchens. And Ruth, she still had a domestic job. But my father was trying to pass the exam. She used to help him and used to buy these books called Arco. And you would buy them and you would get them and they would give you past exams. And so he would read them and study them, and then once a week she'd give him an exam out of the book. And he would just be so. She said, "Well, Paul, you only got 4 wrong this year, this month, this week." And finally, one day she said, "Well, you're down to 1. You get just one wrong." And she said, "I think it's time for you to go and see what you can do." And he went and found out, and I guess it must have been about a month or so. He came back, he said, "Well, guess what, y'all? I passed." And you should have seen us. We were like somebody had given us God. We were so happy.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, so he passed the exam. We called up to everywhere. Every person we knew that was alive and walking, they could hear, we told them.
Well, Jeanne, that right there is genealogy. That the story that you just told. Like, I started out, as I told you before, wanting to find Kunta Kinte, and my grandmother had to back me up. It's like, because he's sitting right there. Go ask him about him before you try to find him, right?
Yeah.
So each story, a lot of people will say, "Well, I didn't know who my grandparents were or who my great-grandparents." You start with yourself when you're doing genealogy.
Okay.
You start with yourself and then you work backwards. So everything that you just told, these stories are amazing, and I love getting them recorded because I enjoy listening to the voices of people who are no longer here with us, and they're telling their own stories.
Oh,
right? I don't have
so
to
true.
And that was such an important part of history that you said. Your mother was a college graduate, and she couldn't get a job in New York, and she worked as a domestic.
My mother. Go ahead. I'm sorry. My mother quit. Go ahead. You tell me.
And then she quit. And then she helped her husband, your father, to pass a test so he could get it. Well, she was educated, so she helped him to pass. Look at how we reach back and help each other.
Yeah.
Of the family story.
Ruth, you're so right. And Ruth, what they don't say about it, I'm so glad you said, look at how they did, because they never picture us or portray us as helping people, one another, and we helped each other,
Yes.
I mean, so many times where people are voting and going in and they say, I ain't going down there, hey, you ain't gonna give me nothing. I said, listen, you better go. That's helping other people. That's helping the black people who are running, the people who are on the DS. Go vote.
Mm-hmm. And my mother was so happy to be on the voter registration back in the 60s, when they were doing the voter and she was going from door to door. I actually found one of the sheets that she had from that, the polling.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I found that.
Do you know the name of the school that your mom went to? I know exactly the type of schools you're talking about. They were all over the South. Like, you would go to a one-room schoolhouse from grade, say, kindergarten or first grade through 8th grade, and then you had to go off because they didn't have a secondary school for the black children. The Rosenwald schools, which were built all over the South to educate the younger kids, but you generally had to play. Like, Bettis Academy was one.
Well, yeah, I know she went because my granddaddy was a minister, and
you remember?
But I'm gonna try to find that out. I don't know. No, I don't. I often wondered, and so glad you brought that up, because I used to say, what college is down there?
Well, resources have connections in South Carolina that could help you uncover your stories, right?
Oh, I would love to. Ruth has just been such a joy to listen to, and I think to myself, Jeanne, as old as you are, you might have something to contribute.
Of course you do.
Yes.
Of course. Stacey, that would be an interesting project for AAHGS. Since we used to meet at the Kennedy Center, but we could interview some of our elders in the Harlem community, especially the older ones.
Sure.
And
in fact, I would get me to join. They'd take me in. They wouldn't even ask me my last name. You know.
Actually, Ruth, we're ahead of you. So we have
yes.
a woman. She has done video editing, and she worked in that media for NBC and other news outlets. We're going to get her to start documenting some of the stories of the.
Who was that did that?
Her? No, she's going to start. She hasn't started yet.
One of your students.
Yeah. Actually, she's a young professional, but her name is Salama Suken. She actually came to the last meeting and told us a little bit about what it is that she did professionally, but she's going to offer her services to do it for us as a project. And then, of course, people want her for other things that, between them and her. But, documenting our stories is, and time is of the essence, because
it is of the essence.
We need this information like yesterday. I am so happy I started as a child, because I had people who were born in the 1880s and in the 1890s. My great-grandfather was born in the 1890s, and I would sit on his porch.
Fabulous.
He would tell stories. And people like Gus Harris, in our AAHGS chapter, his ancestor, Sam Anderson. I live on the property that Sam Anderson was enslaved on. We walk the streets of Harlem and Brooklyn, and we don't think, about what these spaces look like.
I know.
We just don't. Like, it didn't just pop up in a vacuum.
I lived in Harlem on 8th Avenue, and one day I was driving, and I saw a bunch of people sitting out in front of the building I used to live, 2389 8th Avenue, and it's right across from near the Amsterdam News. And I went over. I got out of my car and I went over and I told them. I said, I used to live on the 6th floor here, and I said as a little kid, and I can't. I don't want to stop you, but I brought tears to one man's eyes. He said, "Get out of here." And then I told him how old I was. He said, "Oh my God, she lived on the 5th floor." I mean, it was unbelievable. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to be the one who cried, and they were crying,
right?
Because they said, "How? What?" And then they saw me, and I have to tell you, I had a Skoda, a convertible white car. I mean, I was looking like, you know what? I was sharp as I could be, and they were so proud of me. They were just so, you could just see them say, "Oh my Lord!" Then as people pass up, she lived in this building as a kid. She lived in the building as a child, and I said, but I'll end the story. One day, months and years ago, I don't know how long it was, but it was long enough for me to forget the time span. I was in the grocery store near there, and this guy came over. He said, "You the one that lived at 2289.
Wow.
And I said, "He remembered me." I said, "Oh, he did." Because when I got ready to leave the development, the spot where I was in a convertible, and I waved, and they applauded, they yelled out. It was a day. It was a day of glory. I just had to share that with you.
Wow. Ruth, we're going to have to sit with Jeanne one day and just take in all of these stories on video.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, seriously, we have to. This is genealogy, right? This is history is made of individual stories, family stories, and then collectively they become our African American, our Afro American, our history here in the Americas. Like Ruth, where you grew up, you were right in Crown Heights, Berean Baptist Church, Weeksville. Look at all of these streets.
Yeah. And I went to the first black school. PS 83 was the second school.
Exactly. And guess what? I was there in St. Mary's Hospital.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh, that's weird. I was born in Harlem Hospital, but when I got sick, they took me to Cumberland Hospital.
And even that whole interesting history because remember, Fort Greene, Washington Park, or Fort Greene Park, as we commonly call it, you have a soldiers and sailors monument.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Navy Yard. But guess who built the Navy Yard? It was enslaved Africans who worked.
Navy Yard. I had relatives who sent their kids through college through the Brooklyn Navy Yard. They worked there. You know. Yeah, that was another thing. If you could pass the test, you could get the job. You know, that's what what they call it, the city workers. I worked for the city.
Right. World War II was crucial because they needed workers. So that's the opportunity to get those jobs. Otherwise, we would not have had the opportunity.
Oh, I'm having so much fun with you all. Are you sure you're not interviewing me?
No. Well, that's how the conversation goes. We volley back and forth. 1 minute we interview you, then we interview Stacey, then it's me.
Yes.
We have relatable stories because we all come. You know, we have this New York. I mean, I think we all three are first generation born in New York.
Yes, my mother was born in the South. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, and you know this is just so wonderful. And you know what it does?
Stories.
Yeah, you know what it does, and I have to bring it back to this century, is the way they don't want to read our books. No wonder they want us to throw this stuff away. No wonder they want to ban it from the schools. No wonder they don't want us to know who we are, because we're such beautiful and wonderful people. It's beautiful, and they don't want anybody else to know who we are, because we're such beautiful and wonderful people.
Well, they have built this false narrative that they want everyone to believe in because they don't want it to be that they mistreated us, terrorized us, and treated us so cruel, because that's on their hands that this is what they have done. So if they can keep the stories out, just like they just had the story about the 6888 about these black women in World War II, who they did a miraculous thing. They let this male back up like that with a task that could never be done, and they went in there and turned it around. It's like the women from Hidden Figures. We have so many stories that.
And you know, I think what would be a wonderful thing is if someone just set about doing a documentary on all of this. I mean, little bit by little bit by, and let it be continuous. Like Ruth, you know? I mean, just something that...
Well, we've had Rick Murphy on last week, Stacey, and of course, he has traced his ancestry back to the 1600s. That is miraculous. And not only has he traced it, but he said, I think they're going on their third year. The first year they had 24 people. Now they have over 100 people. So as time goes on, you find more and more people who can trace their ancestry back to the 1600s. And that's miraculous.
Ruth, you and her, let's get started. Let's start it. I'm serious. I won't be here to see the end of it, but I'll be so happy to be a part of it.
Great.
Yes, we're going to do your story. And some of the other seniors, I mean, we could really... I mean, there's so many seniors now who are, you know, in their, 80s, 90s, 100s, that have done miraculous things.
Oh, yes.
The stories seems like they're not important stories, but they are. Everybody's story is important.
I remember when I went to the High School of Performing Arts, and when I got out, when I went to the school there must have been about 6 or 7 blacks in there. Arthur Mitchell, Diana Sands, and a couple of other people there was about 5 or 6 of us in there. And we were like, people would come over to me and say, well, and what is your name? Because it was like, we weren't even allowed to go to the schools because of the simple reason that they said there's no jobs. And when we got ready to get out, I'm not a dancer to today because there was no dance. The only thing I ever heard of was the Larry Steele Group in Atlantic City. You know, I mean, and I don't know if you girls even know that, but they used to pick those girls. Not only could they dance, they were good-looking girls. You know, and it was a known fact that you could not be in show business. You had to lean on.
Did you have to take a test when you went?
Yes, for high school of performing arts. Yes, I went. I'll never tell you. I'll tell you this story quickly. I came there and I tap danced. I went to Mary Bruce on 125th Street. My mother took me there. It was $5 for a month to go. And my mother would save $1 a week from my father's allowance to send me. And I would go. And it was just, I just loved it so. And by the time I went, I was living in the project, at Fort Greene Project. And she used to walk me to the subway, and I would ride from J Street and Borough Hall to 125th Street and never have to get off the train but one stop. And to get to the end of the story, I love that so much. But believe it or not, I could never find a job. When I went to performing arts to take the test, Arthur Mitchell was a freshman, and I was taking the exam, and I went and he said, "Oh, Jeanne," he said, "whatever your name is," he said, "they don't take tap." He says, "They don't do tap here. They only do ballet and modern." And I said, "What?" And he says, "Oh, they're not going to take you. You got tap shoes on." So I said, "Well, I'm going in there anyhow." And I went in and I tapped so I thought I was going to put a hole through the floor. And they said, "Stop, okay, we got it. You know, sweetheart, come here for a minute." And I walked over. I was huffing and puffing because I was like, "You ain't turning me down," you know. And they didn't. They said, "Let us speak to your parents because you're going to have to go to lessons for other things." And to get to the end of the story, when I got in the hallway they gave me a piece of paper to give to my teacher. Arthur Mitchell was there. And he said, let me see. I can tell you right now if you pass. And I hit it. He said, "Oh my God, you got it. You got it." And when I went
determination.
Yes.
Your determination and your energy, they knew they could teach you how to do anything.
Yes. I put a hole through that floor. That's when you had them big old taps. The taps that covered half the bottom of your foot, you know?
Oh, yeah.
The world could have heard you. God said, let her in here, you know? All that noise she's making, you know?
Mine wasn't $5 a month. It was $5 a class. And
you're younger than me. They're going up for price.
Yeah. But I had to take a test to get into fashion high school. We couldn't just go to fashion.
Oh no, you never. Any school that was worth anything, you had to pay to get. And when I got in, there was some white kids who took their test too, and they didn't get in. And the principal kept thinking they made a mistake.
They usually do. They're still doing that, right?
Yes, they're still doing that. In fact, I'm interviewing you all, but
we enjoying you.
And again, all of this is an opportunity for you to record your stories, right? So when this is out and it lives forever, these stories live forever. And you're such a wonderful storyteller. Storytelling is part of our tradition as people of African descent, right? We rely a lot as genealogists on oral history. And our history was discounted, particularly our family history, because we sometimes we can't find those records.
You can't. And you tell me something, was bedtime was little stories, and they call them bedtime stories. They used to come in novels. They would come maybe about 4 or 5 pages each story, before going to bed. My mother used to read me a bedtime story.
I remember my babysitter watching the stories. We would come from home from school and we were watching The Edge of Night. And I knew.
Oh, I love The Edge of Night.
But, one of the stories that you can find out more about is the story of Sam Anderson. If you visit the Center for Brooklyn History, the exhibit is called Tracing.
And I'm going to have Ruth bring me around and let me meet you all personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, when are we going to start our in-person meetings, Stacey?
We have in-person opportunities every single month. We have an in-person opportunity tonight with New York G&B, which is the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society. That meeting is tonight. I know the weather is expected to turn, but I think that we'll be in and out before the snow comes if the forecasters are accurate. We have it's again a genealogy session to introduce new members and members.
Where is it going to be?
It's in Midtown at the offices of the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society. They're located on, I think it's 44th Street, Austin Avenue.
Yeah, 36. West.
Well, I'm just saying in case somebody's listening. I know I can't come, but maybe somebody would like to come, and if they hear it, they'll come.
Yeah, so we also have, if they can just go to our website, they'll find a way to contact us, and we can give them what the calendar is. We have some activities that are exclusive to members, but we have plenty of activities that are not, that are for the general public, because we don't just want our members to trace their histories. We want everyone to trace their histories.
Sure.
Only met in person. Pre-COVID, we met in person. Post-COVID, most of our general membership meetings are virtual. Most members are saying they prefer it that way. But again, we always have in-person opportunities to do genealogical research with other people and, with the company of other people. We have experts in various different fields, from the Caribbean to the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, Central America. All of the various regions of the United States. We have regional research groups that meet monthly. We have Dr. Doris Withers, who was a founding professor at Medgar Evers. She heads up our DNA research group, and that's just another tool that we have that proves what we've been saying all along. It proves that Sally Hemings' descendants were indeed related to the Jeffersons, right? And that was their oral history. We have a lot going on at AAHGS. Our national conference this year is in Charleston, South Carolina, and it's the second weekend in October. So just go to the website. It's the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society, or if you sometimes just type in your browser AAHGS or AAHGS New York, you'll either go to the national site or our site. Either site will get you to us, and you can send us messages if you need more information. We would love to invite people to a virtual meeting, or if there's a public session, you're more than welcome to come to that.
Well, you know what? I had told Ruth, people have been enjoying this show. And I plan to really let it graduate, and let's become a regular. When I say regular, and I told Ruth she knows all of you all.
Ruth knows everybody.
Right. And I told her she's going to be the leader of the pack. So anyway, I would love for her to come and find you and bring you to me. And we can have so much fun doing this, because I can't imagine anybody not wanting to know who they are and where they're from and what they're all about,
But you see some people afraid, right? They're afraid of what they might find. And then we, of course, have people who did not grow up with their biological family.
Yes.
And these things can also be quite traumatic. We have,
I'm sure that's true.
These things that happened to us, from the Wilmington race riots to Tulsa, and so many other horrible stories that, people don't necessarily want to relive, and I get it. I understand it. What I say to people is that, it's so important for us to tell our history. We cannot leave it up to other people to tell our history. That's his story. It's not our story. And when we leave it up to others to tell the story, they're going to tell it very subjectively. They're going to tell it from their view.
Yes.
And the whole story, it gets whitewashed.
And it may not even be true based on how they viewed it,
Yeah, right. I think that when we tell the story, we'll tell it like it's supposed to be told,
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, if I was to say, been throwing stones and running away, poor little lamb, somebody else might think that's funny. But somebody else say, oh, isn't that beautiful,
Right.
I mean, it's just it goes with the group, It goes with who you tell. And I also think that people are very envious. If somebody treated you like we were treated, and how we were, and we come down. Sometimes I'm in the house by myself, and I'll hear the television going, and I'll hear someone saying something, and I'll say, "That's a Black voice." And I'll run to the living room or I'll run to the kitchen, wherever the TV is, and I'll say, "Oh, it is." And they're sounding so articulate and so bright and so smart. And I grin, I smile. I'm all by myself. And I go, "Oh my God, listen to that. Go, girl. Go tell it like it is." And I'm just so proud of us. It's that we give each other so much joy because we know from whence we came,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
People, you're gonna, by telling stories of slavery, you're going to encourage a victim mentality. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. I think actually it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Yeah. It encourages not even just a survivor mentality, but a thriver. We thrive despite.
Oh, I tell you, it's just so wonderful. And this conversation here this morning has brought me so much joy. I mean, and I can't tell you because I feel like I know more than I knew when I picked this phone up. And not that you don't do that daily, you learn or wherever we go, but whatever we do, it is so stapled in our hearts and in our heads, and it never leaves. It never goes away. I enjoy this so much. Let's Stacey end the show for us. Tell us what you want, you and Ruth. I'm going to stop talking. All right.
I want people to have the conversation that we just had. Grab that senior member of your family, and if the senior member is not so senior, grab them and talk to them about their life experiences. Record their stories because that is your family's history. I want them to, when you spoke about your audition, I had to hold myself laughing so hard. But maybe the young people in your family didn't know. They didn't know. And they can relate to that. As they try out for these specialized high schools, as they, write their essays to get into college, that's something that may just give them make it a little bit lighter for them when they think back to that moment. So that's what I want. I want people to do their family trees. I want people to do the genealogy, but most of all, again, genealogy starts with you. Tell your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, tell them your stories because you are that. You're the connection to the people that came before us, and you're connected to them. So start with you and reach out to us at AAHGS. We can help you get there. When you want to start formalizing that work with documents and finding and perhaps even doing DNA tests, which is a whole other topic. But that's what I want.
Since you've had, I'm so excited. Ruth, thank you so much for introducing her and bringing her aboard because I get all my juice out of Ruth, When she comes out, I'm going to hear some good stuff today, But
Stacey is one of our presidents that we look up to. She's very energetic, and she takes us to the next level, and she makes sure that we're engaged and connecting with other organizations and societies that are doing the same work. And it's just fantastic. I mean, I think I did the New York G&B New York story, and that was from Stacey networking and finding out what other organizations are doing, and including us, the African American community, because we have been here since the beginning. We've been here since the 1600s, and we have stories to tell. But we have to document our stories because we can read history books and hear and know about other groups, but because we were left out, we have to put it back in. We have to document the story and leave it for not just for our communities, but for the white communities as well. They don't know. They weren't taught either. And most of the time when they learn of a story, they say, oh, we didn't know that. I mean, when they interviewed Tyler Perry about 6 + 8 or 6 × 888, Jimmy Kimmel says, I didn't even know about this. And Tyler Perry said, I didn't know about it either. But it was someone who comes forward to tell the story, and that's why we got to keep on documenting, keep on telling the story. Jeanne, we're old enough now to tell our story because even though my grandfather was born in 1874, but I'm old enough to tell stories about what happened in New York, 70 years ago.
Yes, yes.
Our stories are just as important as the older stories because as we are the seniors now, we need to leave the story behind because who would have known what your father had to go through, that he was in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and that we were there, I think Stacey said, building the Brooklyn Navy Yard.
That's right.
So
that's what
these are stories that we need to know about because once we go, the generation behind us won't know that history. So
and the reason that he was there was another story because he was in the Navy, and years ago they didn't put black people in the Navy because they couldn't swim.
That's a myth also because most black people say they can't swim, but my whole family swims. My father.
Well, wait a minute. You'll like this, Gary. That's because they got good hair.
All right, now. All right.
You ever heard of that? Yeah, I bet nobody told you that statement in a long time. Good hair. That's how you see it. And what happened? Lord. Is she sharp? Yeah, she got good hair.
Truly why there are, particularly in urban areas, like all of my family, they knew how to swim in the South. When they came to the urban areas, they were faced with segregation. It was not written into the law, but it was everyday racism. They couldn't swim in the same pools.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You did not have access.
I didn't know it was because they were swimming in the same pool.
They couldn't.
They could not.
Now, where Ruth grew up, we St. John's Recreation Center, which had a pool.
Yes.
That
was 1955.
See that, Ruth? You didn't let me know.
Yeah, I have to share that with you. But what was it? It was just recently something I just saw in the news that they were in the water, the beach together, and the black person wandered over he wandered into the white area of the beach.
And that was in Chicago.
It was in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was on the show that I was telling you, the Great Southern Migration, yes. And they told the story that in Chicago, the black person, the water, pushed him into the white area of the beach.
Right.
And they had a riot.
When recently?
No.
Well, no, not recently. This was during the 40s.
Okay.
They called
why I'm asking, that's not a bad question to ask because they're still doing some of that stuff somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
What they do now is they charge so much money you can't afford to go. So they, that's how they do this discrimination here now.
That's
they charge. White folks, they make more money. They can afford it. And I mean, I've just heard on one of the programs where they were saying Bed-Stuy, they pay more for their taxes in Bed-Stuy than the white neighborhoods. Now they said that de Blasio knew about it, and he said he was going to change that, but he did nothing about it. So how can you? And they said, well, it had to be because I watched it on Sunday. Well, why wouldn't you? The controller is running, so he went on to point it out. So then, why hasn't that been changed? I mean, he's saying, I want to run for controller, and that's what they all do, promise that they're going to change it. But how can you run a city and know that you're charging more for the people in Bed-Stuy than you are in Prospect Park and in the white neighborhoods, and let it go? Well, I mean, you know it, and you don't go. They say, well, I think you have to go to Albany. Whoever could hear that and know that they need to change it immediately, because it's discrimination and it's continuous, because it causes Black people to have to move from their homes because they can't afford, the taxes are so high.
Well, you know,
so, anyway,
I mean, I'm so glad that you put that on it, because I once had a big discussion of why Black women don't swim that much, and they were saying it's because of the hair. And I know I used to go. I used to be of my aunt's house, and they lived by a creek. They didn't call it no pool or nothing. It was a creek. And when everybody would get ready to go home to visit my aunt, they would all plan to swim. And then when everybody would get ready to go to the water, they'd say, "Everybody can get in there but Jeanne, because I ain't messing with that hair tonight," you know?
Well, I don't get in there sometimes now myself, because I don't want to have to do my hair or my hair. So that's the
I know. Of course, it's that, but that's the phony. But at Howard University, I went there, and swimming was a must. You had to take it. It was a part of the curriculum. If you couldn't graduate out of Howard unless you had swimming lessons, and they told me, I said, "Oh no, how am I gonna get over? I'm just here napped up. I don't want to walk through the door, you know." And
well, we're gonna have to tune back into this one. But it really has been a pleasure having Stacey on.
Hasn't it? Oh, Stacey, you turned this into a hour show, more than an hour, 2-hour show. So you're so much fun.
I want to stay on and continue talking more about Jeanne and her amazing life.
I know, I do too.
Oh, yes. You won't believe it. I'm so old, I forgot all that I had. I got to get that together. I love you. I love you. I love you both.
Love being
here. Say your names. Ruth Hunt and
Stacey Bell.
Stacey Bell. Thank you, Ruth, for bringing Stacey Bell to our company and to our station. And Stacey, you haven't heard the last of me, and you haven't heard the last, and my audience hasn't heard the last of you. Ruth, you got to bring her back.
I want to definitely bring Stacey back, because Stacey has a very interesting story herself. And she grew
up. I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Vincent, I think.
I did. I grew up in Vincent.
Oh, I want to hear that. All right, Ruth Hunt, thank you so much for her. She was so wonderful.
You are so welcome, Jeanne. It's always a pleasure to sit in with you and have conversation. And we cover so much, and it's easy. The conversation is always just enriching.
And I love you both, and thank you so much for this wonderful morning. All right?
You're welcome, darling. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, thank you. And you too, Evan. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.